few years ago, I couldn't figure out why my knees always on long things. And then I started wondering if my thinking was part of the problem.
Obviously, it's very early on. But our hearts go out to anyone who's impacted by violence. We will be supporting our public safety officials ahead. And I just thank them for what they're doing now. With that, I'll open it up questions to others. We're still investigating it. What we do know at this time, there appears to be some type of incident that led to the vehicle crashing and catching on fire. Right now, that's something we're investigating right now. We don't have that information. Right now, they've been transported to local hospitals. They're being triaged there. We're still determining exactly how many were shot. We do know that there's at least one deceased. We have 9 others who are injured at hospital. That's what we're doing this time. Yes.
Welcome to the Simon Show. January 2nd, 2025.
At this time, we're still investigating.
Just warming up. I got everything running through my phone.
And trying to determine those circumstances. What we do know is that the vehicle appeared to flip over at that location. It caught fire somehow. We do know that there multiple gunshots to the facade of the building. We know that there's some additional scenes that we're investigating right now where other gunfire took place throughout the neighborhood, and that was evidenced by multiple calls for service from the neighbor. To call 911 about the gunshots in the community. There's no threat at this time. We believe this to be a targeted incident. That it was isolated. It appears that the individuals in this case somehow one another, and this incident was intentional and targeted toward individuals that were involved in this incident. Right. Oh, wow. Our investigators are investigating this, and
serious minor savings.
we're utilizing all our resources, gathering up evidence, so that includes video evidence and other information that we have in this case. And once again, we are asking the public to call us at 410-887-4636 at our info center if they have additional information. But we will leave no stone unturned, and we will dedicate every resource to this. We don't generally see this type of thing in our communities in Baltimore County. This is an isolated incident, and I assure you as the police chief that we will put all resources towards trying to clear this case. Not at this time. We're still. Working on gathering that information and make sure that when we do provide that information, that it's accurate. At this. And we're still investigating that. We do know that there's some shell casings in this, but we're not prepared to talk about that evidence. Yes. I'm deceased. Yes. Do you know at this point that there appear to be some multiple gunshots that appear to like an ongoing rolling type of gun situation that led up to the funeral home and it ended. So it's along that street.
The Baltimore mass shooting update. Gotta do something there. I'm really taxing my bandwidth here.
Dad, what is this? How many did you post? They're all from last.
You have not seen the clips from CNN last night, New Year's Eve. Don't go anywhere. Look at Anderson. Anderson Cooper is sitting there just dumbfounded. This was great. People on CNN, and I love this, are losing it. Whitney Cummings apparently was, this is her thing from last night. This was spectacular. And this, look, let me tell you what, I don't know if CNN had a more perfect moment than this in its history than it did right here last night. New Year's Eve. And what absolute kismet that this happened. Somebody at CNN decided to just say, screw it, and just go full out. Because CNN is a dying network. It has been dying for years. And David Zaslav, I think, has been waiting for an excuse to just take a freaking flamethrower to CNN. And maybe he's got it right now.
Get that motherfucker. You nigga. Oh shit, nigga. All right, man. It's either gonna be you or it's gonna be motherfucking baby that go pick which one. You nigga. Oh, okay, then I'm pick.
It's an absolutely tanked into hell since the Trump election. Listen to this lady. She just goes on.
Oh, let me be clear though. 2024 was not only negative. The media wants us to believe this country is so divided, but we actually came together a lot this year. Like as a nation, we unanimously agreed that we would rather see J-Lo in a toxic relationship than in concert. We all agree the government totally knows what drones are telling us. The drones are still up there, and we have no idea what's behind them. No idea. I mean, they're still up in the sky, so I guess we can't rule out that they were made by Boeing. The point is.
The drones are still up there, so we can rule out that they've been made by Boeing, who instituted a heavy diversity, equity, and inclusion program, of course. Instead of hiring people based on merit, they hired people based on skin color and sexual orientation.
I think we all agree on a lot of things. And since I only have a minute left, live on establishment media,
since I only have a minute on establishment media, you're about to hear, this is, oh my God, the roast.
We just say a bunch of things that we know that they'll never cover. Okay, let it go. Trump Jr. didn't have any silverware in his house. No one thought that was weird. Are we still rolling? Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia put money into Disney, so just know there won't be any girl characters in the next Cars movie.
We covered the story weeks ago. One of its first, small-scale mobile parks in Saudi Arabia with the help of the Saudi Arabian oil princes and oil money. And Caroline Reed at Forbes, where are you at? I hope you saw this. I'm going to send this to you when I get off of the show here. This is, oh, God.
Can I do Mr. Bowling? This is wild. Okay, the President Chef died. Weird.
Look at Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper is sitting there just dumbfounded. But he has no idea what to do.
He looks like a robot.
And in the middle of the screen here, just standing next to him, he doesn't know what to do either. This is hilarious.
The Boy Scout of America, they renamed itself Scouting America. You know how else changed their name? Sean Combs. Just saying. Oh, God! Oh!
She talks so fast I can't understand.
I have been using the GLP-1 injections through hers. I have lost 30 pounds.
She just ran a P. Diddy joke on what used to be called the Boy Scouts. Holy shit.
I learned something in 2025. I can't believe you guys are still letting me go. This is amazing. I love seeing that. Please stop me, Andy. I will just keep going.
Look at her nostrils. She looks like she did a pound of Coke. Sounds like it too.
It's not over. That's even the half of it. I got more. Watch this. Wait, let me pull this down. I gotta go. There's more of this. Remember Gorlock the Destroyer? We're gonna do that one too. Here it is. Here we go.
Because they were too busy holding up.
Here we go. She wasn't done. I don't know if this was before or after. I don't care because this funny. CNN again, the greatest moment that they've had in God knows how long.
2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright.
Oh my God! Again, this is not the Gutfeld show. This is not the Five on Fox. This is freaking CNN. And Anderson Cooper is sitting there
It's starting to get
with
heated.
his thumb up his, which is probably better than most things he puts up. Never mind.
Are we still rolling? Am I off? Go for it.
Hold up, yeah.
The pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate.
Again, y'all have to put yourself in the shoes of the average CNN voter or the average CNN viewer.
Same difference.
Well, the voters are the same thing. You're talking about the people watching CNN cover New Year's Eve. You're talking about some of the lowest common denominators of intelligence in America. Let's be very frank. The people watching CNN, like not watching it to clown on them or to troll them, or watching
Yeah, I'm a
it
couple
to see
48 hours behind the times here.
the people like honestly watching CNN do a New Year's Eve countdown. You're talking about technically some of the dumbest, most ill-informed, most uneducated, most ignorant people that breathe in America. Period. Right now, they have this. Whitney is on there exposing them to commentary and statements that they have probably never heard in their life. Because people like Anderson Cooper over there on the right side of the screen have been shoveling shit down their throats for so many years that they don't know which way is up. This is hilarious. Let's keep going.
Kamala was forced on us so hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer. Or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh God, Andy just gave me a very scary look.
Harris was forced onto America so hard. You think patented by Pfizer or Moderna? Oh, let me say this. This chick right here has bigger balls than Joe Biden or anybody in the White House, anywhere close to the White House right now. There are two dudes standing next to her. She has a bigger set of nuts than either of those two combined. Maybe with an order of magnitude slapped on top. They have no idea what to do. I'm sorry. We're going to play that one more time because it's so good. I'm just going to let it roll through.
The 2024 election fried our brains. The Democrats couldn't hold a primary because they were too busy holding a body upright. Are we still rolling? Am I off? Go for it. It was amazing that the pro-choice party didn't give their voters one when it came to the presidential candidate. Kamala was forced up.
Oh man, I need more bandwidth. No, this can only get better.
So hard you'd think she was patented by Pfizer or Moderna, whichever one's. Oh God, Andy just gave me a very scary look. No!
It's so good it should be illegal. Oh wait, the federal government probably will make it. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade. Join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.
In 1991, George H.W.
Lima now.
Fuck I knew in my life, you know. Bring that nigga Joker, man. That nigga told me everything that shit, you know. I'm trying to get one more here, man. Fucked up. No, I won't be fucking in no jail, you know. So I'm just about to take my life after that and shit, you know. Oh, man. You know, I'm waiting for your boys, man. They can't help it, man. A little extra up, but I gotta get out of it, you know. That's love. So it really got me, man. I understand ain't nobody did shit. Ain't nobody. Where the niggas at that said they put it all on the line? I'm gonna chop that nigga turn to the sky. I gotta know where niggas' heads at. Cause my cousin still ain't got no peace yet. So all you motherfuckers wanna know where I stand? Nigga, I stand right next to my cousin McNeil, nigga. You know what I'm saying? That's on the block, nigga. I'll be on the end of this shit, nigga. Look up in the sky.
Your barber Gus works great, but he doesn't look like Buffalo. Moment Futurenda.
Operation Captain, the first in a series of tests at the Pacific Proving Ground. Another accumulation of men, of machines, another meeting of ships and aircraft and troops. Here was the best of physics, of metallurgy, of electronics. During the months after the historic Mike detonation, preparations for a new series of tests to solve the problems of a deliverable megaton weapon went ahead at an accelerated pace throughout the country. Operation Castle became a reality and is now successfully concluded. The report which follows is a summation of what occurred at the Pacific Proving Grounds during that operation in 1954. Here to lead off this record is General Clarkson, Task Force Commander.
Operation Castle concluded on the 14th of May, 1954. Castle was an all-thermonuclear test, a test basically of devices in the megaton range. We feel that the report of this important test should give the failures as well as the successes, should reflect the changes in thinking that occurred during the test. We hope this treatment will help you understand the problems that were experienced during the course of the operation. This program encompassed then 3 shots on land and 4 shots on barges. Our main base camp on Bikini was located in the same island complex. The firing station to be used on all Bikini shots was located on NU Island. Parry and Eniwetok Islands on Eniwetok Atoll again functioned as the center of land-based operation. This then was the weapon schedule and the operational plan for Castle of March 1st.
Parry Island, Eniwetok Atoll. This is the 3rd time this island has been used as the headquarters for a Pacific Task Force. For this operation, a weapons assembly area was constructed at the southern tip of this valuable piece of real estate. This is the first time on any operation that weapons were assembled on Parry and then moved out to the firing site. Weapon development would be impossible without diagnostic instrumentation. But such instrumentation is expensive, very expensive at this distance from home. For this reason, extensive instrumentation was limited to a few shots, and each diagnostic experiment was carefully considered before being included in the program. This instrumentation, while more elaborate than that of other shots, is representative of the type
First
of
hydrogen bomb that was just built inside of a shed. They call it a shock cab.
Bomb from its rate of neutron multiplication. Cloud sampling for radiochemical determination of fission yield and to assist in determination of total yield. High-speed cameras and photo towers for ball of fire photography to indicate total yield of the device. Scopes recording electromagnetic radiation and cameras, both obtain the time interval between primary and secondary bomb detonation. Other cameras to look directly into the open door of the cab. A great mass of information was gathered as a result of an array of 12 pipes. These pipes are like peepholes, looking at portions of the weapon's case to pick up gamma and neutron emission from many stages of the reaction. Starting at H-48 hours, all personnel.
Jeez, this is frustrating.
But Bikini Atoll were evacuated from the scattered islands and moved aboard task force ships. The only men to remain were the members of the firing party, protected in their bunker on Enu Island. Once more, for the first time, since Operation Crossroad in 1946, Bikini took its place in the story of atomic testing. The date was March 1, 1954.
There it is inside that building.
This photograph was taken from an airplane at 50 miles. The width of the fireball at this time, about 3 seconds after detonation, was 4 miles. The frame size of the picture is 6 by 8 miles. The top of the fireball at this time, 40 seconds after detonation, was 5 miles above sea level. Prove that we can have a high-yield weapon weighing less than 10 tons.
The tremendous yield resulted in a serious fallout situation at Bikini and certain other atolls downwind from ground zero. This was the forecast wind direction. The actual wind was in this direction, some 10 degrees less favorable than forecast. Even so, the winds were within the area of acceptable fallout. However, the unexpected high yield that caused significant fallout to occur on Rongelap Atoll, 110 miles distant. On Rongerie, 150 miles from Bikini, and on Uterek, 280 miles out. After the natives evacuated, radiation survey teams were flown back to the old atoll, where studies were made and water and soil samples taken. Rongelap had a native population of 82. Evacuation was carried out on the second morning after the shock. Rongerik had no native population, but was occupied by 28 men of the task force. 8 men were evacuated by air at H plus 28 hours, and the remaining men soon after. Uterek had 150 natives, and they were also evacuated, although radiation levels here were relatively light. The removal of personnel from the contaminated atolls was done mainly by destroyers. These destroyers were attached to the task force primarily for security purposes, but were easily adapted for use as evacuation vessels. All of those exposed were taken to Kwajalein, where complete physical examinations were carried out. Every effort was made to assure their comfort and well-being. Fallout on Bikini temporarily rendered that atoll unusable. 25 R per hour was recorded on Element, our port of entry. On NU, site of our control station, 35 R per hour was recorded. Hundreds of Roentgens per hour were measured on Ammon and Bikini Island. Even if radiation had not been a factor, blast damage on Andaman was considerable. It would have taken a sizable effort to make that island again usable as a base camp. The ground shock and fallout experienced by our firing party on NU forced us to give up the idea of a manned station. The necessary electronic systems were installed on the USS Estes to permit firing remotely by radio. The possibility of further damage to previously prepared shot sites at Bikini caused us to change our schedule at this point.
Back in the States, at about the same time Castle was in operation, the results of these drops, plus tested fusing and firing systems,
look at the
made it
size of
possible to
that
have
bomb.
a deliverable weapon ready, a weapon approximately 19 feet in length and 5 feet in diameter. While the case is made of aluminum, this is by no means a light weapon, since it weighs 43,000 pounds.
Whoa.
It was put aboard its firing barge. This was the first time that the barge method of firing was used. It was felt that if firing be done from a barge on open water, it would result in an appreciable reduction in fallout, as well as a considerable simplification of operational problems.
You should see how high the barge flies in the air.
To get off. We had to postpone 14 days from the scheduled date of firing because of weather. The winds continued to swing around, blowing to the south and then to the west. This took 10 days. Then for 16 days, the winds remained in this sector. Since Eniwetok was in this area, it might receive fallout if the winds were too close to a borderline condition. At 7 a.m. on the 26th of March, the forecast was for a favorable wind in the right direction. The shot was set for 6:30 the next morning, the 27th of March.
On this rather unimpressive barge, floating in the Bikini Lagoon, rested a device which carried the hopes for a large step forward in the weapons development program. The distance of the camera aircraft is 50 miles. The frame size of the picture is 14 by 18 miles. The film is running at normal speed. left from Inuitaq Atoll, 200 miles away.
Daily commuting from ship to shore cost several working hours per man each day. We had to watch the radiation doses received by the people working on the test island. A maximum of 3.9 Roentgens per man was set for the operation, and with minimum readings of approximately 100 milliroentgens per hour, the men had to work fast.
As on previous tests, the armed forces took advantage of the Castle series to broaden their knowledge of the effects produced by high-yield weapons. As an example, there has been much uncertainty in specifying the minimum safe distance for aircraft delivering high-yield weapons. Blast and thermal effects were measured on B-36 and B-47 aircraft, positioned so that some damage was expected. This data will help us to specify the yield at which parachute drops are required for delaying a detonation, as well as providing us with answers to many questions which arise when positioning for multiple drops is considered. The whole picture of fallout contamination becomes of increasing importance with high-yield weapons. In one program, drone ships were sent into fallout areas to evaluate the worth of a washdown system for ship decontamination. We found we could measure fallout even in large ocean areas by making aerial surveys using extremely sensitive radiation detection equipment and with surface craft such as tugs and destroyers. As a result of these measurements, we were able to document for the first time fallout data from high-yield detonations. It is now known that fallout from the larger Castle shots blanketed areas of more than 5,000 square miles with radioactive material that would have been lethal to unprotected personnel. This one result gives a new insight into a method for using high-yield weapons in both strategic and tactical situations.
It is now around the 10th of April, and the recap of our story of Castle. 3 shots down and 3 to go. The weather continued to work against our keeping a firm firing schedule. During the middle 2 weeks of April, we were faced with the same situation. The winds above 10,000 feet were again in an unsafe direction. Under these conditions, populated areas were directly in line of fallout. Again, we postponed, awaiting a favorable forecast. This occurred on the 25th of April at noon.
Anchored in its location off the island of Urochi, 0 hour approached. The time of firing, 6:10 on the 26th of April. Camera position, 50 miles at 10,000 feet. Size of picture, 14 by 18 miles. Photographed at normal speed. The yield was 7 megatons.
The weapon was scheduled for firing on the 5th of May. This was 10 days since the last shot. For the first time in the operation, we had what could be considered a normal interval between shots.
On the 16th of April, a Strategic Air Command B-36 landed at Inuitaq Island.
Looks like they loaded it up on a barge. And boom. No,
Camera position, 50 miles at 10,000 feet.
that's a nice shot.
Size of picture, 14 by 18 miles. Photographed at half normal speed.
We're just gonna have to do this again. We need to do some more lights. All the old film was wearing out. We needed an 8K. Geez, stuff's getting blown everywhere. Can't even tell where they're at.
The sixth and final shot of Operation Castle. This device was also flown out to the forward area for final assembly at Perry Island. The barge was towed directly to its zero point at Enutak Atoll. Here, over the spot that was once the island of Alujilab and is now the Mike Crater, was anchored in position. At 6:20 on the morning of May 14th, the smallest device of the operation was ready. This test initiated an investigation of small, lightweight thermonuclear weapons in the megaton class. Size of picture is 14 by 18 miles. The yield was about 1.7 megatons, essentially as predicted. From this firing, we learned that we have the capability of developing megaton weapons weighing less than 10,000 pounds.
Castle was by far the most complex and significant operation in the short but impressive history of nuclear testing, and in my opinion, absolutely vital to national security and the security of the free world. We were beset by operational problems of a magnitude not encountered previously. The degree of flexibility attained by the task group and by the task force as a whole in meeting these problems is only one example of the spirit of cooperation evidenced by all members of the three services and by the members of the
16 grams of protein, no artificial anything.
some 15 million square miles of the Pacific, the 1962 Overseas Nuclear Test Series was an undertaking of impressive proportions. The test program, under the code name of Operation Dominic, required a technical and operational buildup of unprecedented scope, with planning, preparation, and deployment, all on a tighter time scale than ever before attempted in overseas nuclear test operations. Concurrent testing at 4 widely separated points was necessary to meet these requirements. Off Christmas Island, a series of weapon development airdrop tests was made, followed by later drops in the Johnston Island danger area. All drop aircraft staged from Hawaii. A Polaris weapon system test was launched from the open sea into the northeast corner of the Christmas Island danger area. A combined ASROC anti-submarine weapon system and underwater effects test took place in the open ocean several hundred miles off San Diego. And high-altitude nuclear-tipped missiles were launched from Johnston Island, with instrumentation to gather weapon effects data distributed over wide areas of the Pacific Ocean basin. All were prescribed for completion in the shortest feasible time. Here are the highlights, from the high-priority inception of the operation to its successful termination. Operation Dominic was triggered by the Soviet resumption of atmospheric nuclear testing in September 1961. The Department of Defense, under presidential direction, on 24 October 1962, activated Joint Task Force 8 under the command of Major General Alfred D. Starbird to prepare for a series of nuclear tests in the Pacific. The job handed General Starbird and his staff was an enormous one: to plan, organize, and prepare the task force, and to complete the materiel buildup in time to be ready to fire by the 1st of April, a preparation time only 1/3 of that typical for previous, comparable but less complex test operations. Involved were the organization and movement of over 28,000 men, both military and civilian, along with preparation and shipping of almost 200,000 tons of materiel. Each man and each item was ticketed for a specific point somewhere in the vast Pacific Test Laboratory. This buildup included the development and installation of thousands of pieces of intricate instrumentation. Some were fitted in trailers, some in modified aircraft or ships. Other apparatus was scheduled for direct movement overseas for placement at one or another of the 31 task force overseas sites, which first had to be built, including remote instrument stations carved out of tropical jungle growth. These preparations were all parts of the master plan rapidly taking shape. One group of operations was the weapon development tests. Initially, it was planned that these tests would be accomplished by placing an instrumented ship array in an open ocean area south of Hawaii to control and observe technical data from the detonation of the test devices, which would be dropped by a B-52 based in Hawaii. This airdrop method had a twofold mission. It would provide for the proof test of weapons which, during the moratorium, had gone into the national stockpile without having been tested in weaponized form. And it would provide for the test of new development devices of advanced design. Supplementing the shipboard apparatus were specially modified aircraft diagnostic platforms. While the open ocean preparations were underway, negotiations were being conducted with the British government for the use of jointly owned Christmas Island, 1,200 miles south, as a location for the airdrop tests. In mid-February, the task force was notified that the necessary agreement had been reached.
It's really choking.
Because of the many technical advantages expected from the use of the island test base, plans were immediately altered to move the weapon development tests there. This location switch was indeed a substantial effort, with the prescribed first shot readiness date only 6 weeks away. The main features of the 1962 test program were by now essentially defined, although many details were far from firm. This fluid condition continued as developments throughout the test period brought forth new requirements. Although work in each of the 4 main areas was proceeding simultaneously, in this film, each of the locations will be considered separately, beginning with Christmas Island. Late in March, the Joint Task Force headquarters began to move to Christmas as the main forward location for the first phase of the operation. This 222 square mile atoll, hard by the equator, was governed by the British. They had used it for their nuclear test operations from 1956 through 1958, but equipment connected with their tests had been withdrawn and their camps deserted. Equatorial weather attrition and the task force's additional needs required extensive preparations for the task force program. Since the atoll possessed no harbor, all ship-transported equipment, materials, and continuing supplies had to be transferred to lighters and barges in the roadstead and moved to the Port of London for offloading. Inland, Christmas was dotted with lagoons, possessing a swamp life all its own. On firmer ground lived 400 Gilbertese islanders who produced copra from the atoll's thousands of palm trees. The weapon airdrops were made on the east shoreline of Christmas Island. The array was controlled from the Joint Operations Center, housing the command post, the Air Operations Center, and units associated with control of all drop and test elements. Additional radar apparatus located at A site plotted the precise second-by-second position of the drop aircraft during the bomb run to assure that the device would fall within the finite time and space limitations set by scientific and safety requirements. This plot information was relayed directly to the Joint Operations Center by a microwave television link, providing the Air Task Group commander with instantaneous positive information on which to base his operational decisions. Also at A site, as well as at other locations on the island, basic diagnostic instrumentation housed in trailers was positioned to secure data associated with the detonation. Special tracking radars assisted this diagnostic array by assuring they were oriented toward the nuclear device on its trajectory from the instant of release to detonation. Optically and electronically, the trailer diagnostic instrumentation recorded the most minute detail of each detonation in millionth of a second segments for scientific analysis. Under the precise positioning of the Air Operations Center, various types of aircraft also gathered additional diagnostic and weapon effects information. 2 modified C-130s were platforms for fireball measurements with high-speed cameras. They also carried other instrumentation to record data on internal device behavior. This technique, rudimentary at the start, was perfected to a high degree of effectiveness during the Christmas airdrops. Control aircraft backed up the Air Operations Center's positioning of the air array, along with checking out the feasibility of an all-airborne diagnostic concept. Other aircraft recorded thermal radiation, radar attenuation, and chorioretinal effects for eye damage studies. Specially instrumented KC-135 aircraft also recorded a variety of experimental data. Aloft, too, were search and rescue aircraft and photographic planes documenting the Dominic detonations. After each shot, B-57 sampler aircraft went aloft, as they had in operations of years past, to fulfill one of the chief diagnostic functions of each event, stalking the radioactive cloud to obtain particulate and gaseous samples for radiochemical analysis. Throughout the Dominic tests, maximum security was maintained around the Christmas and Johnston Island test area boundaries by the Navy destroyer and P-2V watchdogs. Round the clock, throughout the entire test period, the P-2V aerial fence riders rose from their Christmas and Johnston bases for their 10 to 12-hour runs, in constant touch with the destroyers below. Daily, they greeted the Soviet instrumentation trawlers, which for 7 weeks lurked just beyond the danger zone periphery. On 23 April, the President directed the waiting task force to proceed to the first shot, the weapon development drop. The initial airdrop was on the 25th of April, and the last on 11 July. During this period, a total of 24 weapon development shots were detonated in the Christmas area. All drops were on target and within the precise time and space limitations established by the requirements of diagnostic instrumentation, a record by the B-52 crews, which reflected a high degree of bombardment skill. Nation technological efficiency also scored high in the fusing and firing systems and in the device telemetry. Throughout the Christmas airdrops, the backup airborne diagnostic method was progressively refined to the point of becoming a proven capability to collect the scientific data required. The weapon development effort was completely successful in all its primary test objectives. The series also yielded important new weapons effects information. Meanwhile, the task force was equally active at its 3 other test areas. Early in May, the test of the Polaris nuclear weapon system was ready for launch by submarine in the open sea. Detonation was scheduled to take place in the Christmas danger area. As the nuclear submarine Ethan Allen moved toward its rendezvous with range, safety, and instrument ships at the launch point some 1,500 miles from Christmas Island. All concerned were well aware that this was not only the first test of the complete Polaris nuclear system, but also the first proof test of this particular warhead in weaponized form. On the 6th of May, the Polaris was fired. Two submarines near the burst area, together with orbiting Christmas-based aircraft, confirmed that the warhead detonated on target at expected yield. The first proof test of a United States ballistic missile nuclear warhead in its full re-entry environment was completely successful. Meanwhile, a group of task force ships several hundred miles off the Southern California coast were completing preparations for the ASROC event. This test had a dual purpose. It provided a system test for the nuclear ASROC anti-submarine weapon system, and also a major underwater nuclear effects test using a heavily instrumented test array. 11 May. With test equipment ready, the destroyer Agarhole moved on station. The regular crew selected an unmodified stock Azra and lofted its nuclear warhead toward a target centered in the test array. The entire operation was successful, with both the operational and effects test objectives achieved. During this same period, at Johnston Island, the launch center for the high altitude program, deployment of men and instrumentation had proceeded on schedule for a first event early in May. The purpose of the high altitude tests was to gather a wide range of effects data bearing on both the offensive and defensive aspects of nuclear attack upon incoming ballistic missiles, including warhead kill mechanisms and electromagnetic blackout effects on both radar and communications. On mile-long Johnston Island's limited acreage, crowded around and between the runway and ramp areas, were the missile launch complex and a line of more than 30 instrument rocket launchers, together with the many other necessary testing and support facilities. World War II bomb shelters were utilized for housing the command post of the Joint Task Force and other stations manned during the launch events, including those of the Scientific Readiness Team and Launch Control Units. This radar dish, scanning the sky for electromagnetic effects data, is representative of the test equipment set up and operated by the scores of technical projects. The launch vehicle groomed to carry the nuclear warheads to test detonation altitudes was the Thor missile. In the early days, it was scheduled to do the job for 2 and possibly 3 nighttime bursts at various altitudes above the Earth's atmosphere. For these tests, the Thor was modified to carry 3 scientific instrumentation pods to obtain key data in close proximity to the burst. Each pod was ejected from the launch vehicle at a predetermined position along the missile's trajectory. The Pacific Missile Range ship moored at Johnston tracked the missile in flight for range safety purposes. Other tracking units followed rocket instrumentation and scientific pods and determined their accurate positions relative to the detonation. Positioned at various distances from Johnston Island were 9 test ships, including the downrange anti-missile measurements program ship American Mariner, on loan from the Atlantic Missile Range. Pod recovery and surveillance ships were also on station, along with an aircraft carrier, whose marine helicopters evacuated from the island all personnel non-essential to the actual operation during each event. But Johnston Island itself was only the hub of an extensive network of land, ship, and aircraft instrument stations radiating in all directions into both northern and southern hemispheres of the Pacific. Between the northern arc of Okinawa, Adak, Fairbanks, and Palo Alto, and the Polynesian islands of Tonga Tapu and Rarotonga, far south of the equator in Johnston Island's southern magnetic conjugate area, the roll call of islands hosting effects instrument stations evokes images both geographical and logistical, especially the latter, for over 200 ground instrument stations were prepared, installed, and manned. High-altitude effects data were also secured from aircraft platforms. More than a dozen planes took to the air from Hickam Air Base in Hawaii for each event, and 3 more from Nandi Airport in the Fiji Islands. Besides the instrumentation ships at Johnston Island, 2 minesweepers put to sea from Pearl Harbor for electromagnetic data recording. And from its mooring at Tango Tango in Samoa, the instrumented motor ship Acania moved up prior to each shot day to be on its mid-ocean station. Johnston's opening event on May the 2nd was a daylight certification shot, testing all systems during flight trajectory, but without nuclear warhead. This proof test went as planned, achieving all programmed objectives. But hereafter, the course of shot events did not follow the scheduled script. First 2 shot launches did not carry through to nuclear detonation, Neither of the failures was caused by the missile or warhead. On 8 July, the third nuclear launch, another try for the very high altitude Starfish event, was flawless, including the performance of the many auxiliary instrumentation rockets set into selected trajectories about the burst region. Starfish detonated at its planned strength and height, producing wide upper atmosphere glow and extensive auroral effects. Here is how it appeared from Mount Haleakala on Hawaii's island of Maui. Recovery of the instrumentation pods ejected from the Starfish missile involved pre-dawn ship, patrol plane, and helicopter convergence in the splash area, drawn by radio signals, flashing lights, and green dot. As soon as the pods were fished from the water, they were taken to the Johnston Island recovery area for removal of the scientific instrumentation. The second bluegill attempt was made on 25 July, but a one-of-a-kind missile misadventure caused by a sticking fuel valve destroyed the Thor and its warhead on the pad. The pad itself suffered extensive damage, including long-life radioactive contamination. Repairs to permit another try at bluegill caused a significant delay. Additional construction on Johnston Island during this interim, as well as the scheduling of more shots, reflected the value attached to the testing being carried out on Operation Dominator. 3 more high-altitude effects missile events were added to secure data at different heights. Also, 5 more over-ocean airdrops were scheduled, these to take place within the Johnston Island danger area. Besides a second Thor launch pad, the construction included facilities for the launch of XM-33 rockets and IT Hercules missiles. The U.S. Army deployed a missile battery to provide launch support for the 90 Hercules missiles, which were scheduled both as nuclear warhead and instrumentation vehicles. On 15 October, high-altitude testing was resumed, resulting in another failure of a bluegill attempt, this time due to internal missile guidance malfunction. It was the last such disappointment. All remaining launches culminated in detonation at their planned altitudes. First came Checkmate, boosted to altitude by a Sargent-engined XM-33 rocket. Besides furnishing new basic scientific data on upper atmosphere phenomena, the tests fulfilled the vital military aims of providing information on the offensive and defensive aspects of nuclear attack upon incoming ballistic missiles, as well as data on blackout effects on radar and communications. Meanwhile, the 5 additional weapon development airdrop tests in the Johnston Island danger area were conducted. To gain the scientific information required, the airborne array refined at Christmas Island was utilized as the sole diagnostic force, with the original C-130 aircraft joined by KC-135 jets carrying additional diagnostic gear. The makeup of the remainder of the test aircraft formation was generally the same as at Christmas, including the post-shot B-57 diagnostic cloud samples, this time staging through Johnston Island to conserve flight hours and to reduce pilot radiological dose accumulations after cloud penetration. The air array was under the guidance of the Air Task Group Commander in one of the RC-121 aircraft, while overall control was maintained by the Joint Task Force Commander from Flag Plot in the Princeton near the dock area. Target rafts were again used as guideposts for orienting the air array as a point of aim for the B-52 device drops. The rafts were moored in the open ocean by the Navy Task Group in water as deep as 3 miles. Late in October, after the last airdrop test device had been detonated, the series was pronounced a success, both in refinement of weapon design concepts developed for the Christmas tests, and in further confirmation of the feasibility of the airborne diagnostic method for future testing. With Operation Dominic completed and the test apparatus roll-up underway, the time had come to evaluate the far-flung operation and its scientific results. Despite Dominic's unprecedented 4-operation complexity, with all the tests prepared under conditions of the greatest urgency in both time and circumstance, the 1962 series is regarded as the most productive since U.S. nuclear testing began. The analysis and correlation of Operation Dominic's wealth of test data will continue for some time. Yep.
Jeez.
Nevertheless, the Atomic Energy Commission and the Department of Defense already have been enriched with vital inputs, both in new areas explored and information gaps plugged.
With Smart, truffle butter filet mignon without being a... Eat Smart with Factor.
Come on.
Volume was
found in the backseat of a car at a Bluffdale gas station.
Fairman police are confirming that it was 30-year-old Summer Tatiana Romy.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the reports that enemy planes are approaching. In less than 3 hours, an H-bomb might fall over Portland.
Supervision May 29, 2012. Among the past charges was domestic violence. Now, according to her sister, Romy was last seen on Christmas Day. She missed her shift at work on Monday. Police found her just after midnight during a DUI investigation. Arresting documents show she had injuries and trauma
But like myself, I think you're going to be very interested in this story that we're going to tell you. And in this... age of missiles and man-made moons, it takes on added significance. There are no actors in this story, but there are a lot of people. The people of the city of Portland, Oregon, and what happened to them, or could happen to them, on a day that we'll call X. This is the land, between the mountains and the sea, between the snow-capped crater of Mount Hood and the Pacific. Tall timber country. And this is the city, largest dry cargo port on the Pacific coast. And its people are friendly and rugged in their of the Oregon Trail. Population, about 415,000, more or less about the size of Hiroshima. And this is what happened, or could happen, on a certain day called X. The sun came up at 6:31. Joe Folk was there to observe and chronicle the event. The paper, Joe noted, was a little heavier than usual, but naturally he didn't stop to read the headline. And Mrs. Frank Stufel, Portland housewife, mother of 5, was concerned at 8:02.
John, it's time to get up. You'll be late for school.
Children late and coffee boiling. And with these problems duly appraised, she turned to the woman's page of the Oregonian, thus managing to avoid the front page, which, after all, contained nothing but scare headlines.
The time is 8:27. Wake up, Portland. It's a wonderful day today. Stay tuned to KOIM for the best in music and news. And now, we continue our wake-up show with more transcribed tunes.
At 8:36, the population of Portland increased by 1. Timothy James made his comment at a local hospital and settled down to life in the 20th century. Like all communities, religion is important. The people, like its church architecture, are forward-thinking. At 9, a special service is being held. And at the busy port, at 9:18, Ray Matthews, a longshoreman, looked scrap iron bound for Japan. At 9:37, At the central fire station, the men were busy with their morning chores, scrubbing hose, cleaning ladders, and shining the pumper. By 10 that morning, at the Harvey Scott School, the kindergarten class at Elsie McClendon was much involved with the morning's activities.
House will come to order. The clerk will call the roll. Dean, Booty, Bowes, Earl.
And the twice-weekly meeting of the city council was much involved, too. A matter of sewer maintenance was one of the problems up for discussion. At police headquarters, the messages at 10:31 so far indicated 2 cars stolen, a drunken disorderly. An average day in an average American city.
$126. Cat in a tree. 14 in Ankeny.
Except this day is the one called X.
Attention all stations. Emergency. This is an air raid warning and tunnel rat radio alert. Repeat. This is an air raid warning and tunnel rat radio alert. Enemy aircraft are over the Aleutian. Stand by for one time.
This is Western. Prepare to county time information. Time to Seattle, 2 hours, 30 minutes.
Portland warning point. Air raid warning. Enemy aircraft over Canada and Alaska. Time to Portland, 3 hours, 15 minutes.
Thank you. I'll notify the mayor. At 10:32, Jack Lowe, the city's civil defense director, receives the words. Enemy planes have crossed the pole. Probably they carried H-bombs. Likely 1, maybe 2 are headed for Portland. The mayor is alerted.
Clerk, gentlemen of the council, I've just received information that enemy planes are approaching this area. I just authorized the sounding the evacuations. The council will be in recess and we will immediately reassemble at the Emergency Operations Center.
And so this day called X, which began in such an ordinary way, is no ordinary day. At 10:30, the banshee of the siren echoes the warning, and the city prepares for survival.
officers under investigation in the Robert Kennedy defendants in other matters and are being represented by lawyers in the Office of the Attorney General. While we are confident in the firewalls set up between the Division of State Counsel and the Office of Special Investigation, even the possibility or mere appearance of a conflict could tie up a potential prosecution in lengthy legal challenges, or get a potential prosecution outright dismissed.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin McPhail. I'm the sheriff of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
To all stations, mark.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Dateline, United Kingdom. Today on these British Isles, an undisclosed number of 4 missile units are being ready to supplement the present deterrent force. This is Weapons System 315A, a system designed around the Intermediate Range Ballistic Missile concept, the IRBM idea. The meaning of IRBM can be simply stated. Ballistic missile means the delivery of a nuclear warhead in a ballistic arc from one point on the Earth's surface to another point on the Earth's surface. Intermediate range means that Thor can achieve a spectrum of ranges from 300 to 1,500 miles. This concept has marked significance. Consider this globe of ours from the viewpoint of a polar projection, a top-of-the-world look. There are 2 main land masses, the complex of the 2 Americas and the Eurasian complex. Advent of strategic missiles, the Air Force already had in effect a 3-pronged or 3-dimensional strategy to operate in this world geography. We had long-range bombers of the B-52 type, intercontinental bombers, capable of flying from one complex to the other and returning. We had intermediate-range bombers of the B-47 type, which can fly from bases located on the fringes of the Eurasian complex to any point on that landmass. We also had fighter aircraft like the F-84 and F-100, capable of flying from Allied bases within Eurasia itself, their range tremendously extended through air-to-air refueling. When missiles arrived on the scene, they began to augment the striking force of this kind of air power. ICBMs like Atlas and Titan, the intercontinental missiles, add to our long-range potential. An IRBM like Thor adds to our middle-range deterrent program. And a missile like Matador, with a range of several hundred miles, blends with our fighter force. For the immediate future, at least, the idea of combining aircraft and missiles, mixing them, seems like the ideal solution to defense. But not too long ago, 3 short years in fact, we did not have this ideal concept. And so we flash back to Dateline, summer 1955, Washington, D.C.
In 1955, this is where we stood. We had fighter aircraft like the F-100, backed up by the Matador. We had begun the development of the ICBMs Atlas and Titan to supplement the B-52. But we did not have an IRBM program to complement the B-47. We had a chink in our armor. We needed, and our NATO allies needed, a reliable IRBM as soon as possible.
Dateline, November and December 1955, Los Angeles, California. At this time period, there was already in existence in California a unit of the Air Research and Development Command. It was known as the Western Development Division. Later, the name was changed to the Ballistic Missile Division, referred to simply as BMD.
BMD was organized for one purpose and one purpose only: carry out a crash program on the development of the intercontinental ballistic missile.
It was a unique organization spawned out of the creative talents of some of the nation's leading scientific minds.
BMD would eliminate red tape, shorten command and communications time, leapfrog development, work concurrently on all phases of the problem.
When the need arose for an IRBM missile, BMD was already going full bore on the 2 previously assigned intercontinental missiles, Atlas and Titan.
It was only logical that BMD also take on the development of an intermediate range missile, since it is generally the same kind of bird as an ICBM.
BMD was asked to get the IRBM program underway with utmost speed. As it turned out, it took 50 days, 30 days to submit plans, and 20 days to freeze design. This was the speed, the new look in Air Force research and development. This is how it was done. On the 28th of November, 1955, BMD was directed to proceed with the IRBM. On the same day, contractors were notified to prepare proposals. These contractors were being asked to build an airframe, assemble the primary missile systems, test the product, develop and fabricate ground handling equipment, and simultaneously create a manufacturing capacity to produce the number of completed.
Yes, getting really annoying.
Needed in the time available. In short, these companies.
All right, that was a good test.
Those contractors who thought they could meet the stringent
Try another Streamlink
proposal. On December 20.